Hi everyone, this is Samit from TalksOnGround. How are you? We are talking amidst a lot of geopolitical churn, a lot of wars starting, escalating, de-escalating. It's all happening. In fact, this video was planned for about 2 days back, but the events have moved much faster than I could plan. Anyhow, we're going to cover a very interesting topic today, which will intersect with a lot of things that are happening in the world, including the Iran-Israel war, the Indo-Pak situation, and the Indo-US situation. And all of this is packaged as the Western pivot away from India, which is truly not a pivot, but let's just study what all is going on. I had done a video earlier about how the US specifically has moved away from India in the last about 18 to 24 months, and that divide is now widening, but it seems there's a divide within the West as well. So anyhow, let's just quickly look at where the US is. There could be more reasons, but this is just three I could easily come up with. That India is too autonomous, it doesn't provide enough market access, and is not militarily useful against China because we are not really taking our guns out too quickly unless it's really, really necessary. And that's not how the US functions. The US wants somebody, basically a mercenary, who will go and fight whenever they want and when it's acceptable and suitable for them. So these are three key reasons where the US is finding that its investment is really not turning fruitful. There is a slightly more tactical way of looking at this. So what has happened? There's been a narrative war against India with respect to Khalistanis. It was started by Trudeau, and as we speak today, this narrative war has taken a very, very interesting U-turn. So that's very interesting. Then there's a re-hyphenation with Pakistan, and as we speak, or rather, as I record this, this is around 9:30 India time. So this is when Donald Trump will be having lunch with the Field Marshal Asim Munir of Pakistan. That's a very interesting turn of events, and please ignore the picture in the middle. That's Biden and Imran. Then there have been some defense equipment slowdowns on multiple projects. The helicopters, the engines for aircrafts, and so on. Even the drones, the MQ-9s that are being shot down by the Houthis one after the other. Even Iran claims it has shot down one. Anyhow, some of that equipment is very, very important for India. So it is not um, a great situation for India and for the US also, because obviously they are doing this for a reason. But today, this is not how things are turning out. So there has been a slight change of circumstance, and Modi is was in Canada in the G7 meeting, which he received a very late invite from the Canadian Prime Minister, and the Canadian Prime Minister then held a like a meeting with him, and there have been some agreements, including a intelligence sharing one. A very grainy video this is, but it gives you an idea that this invite was really, really useful for Modi, because for India basically, because it allowed the Indian government to go and talk to a lot of people around the world. I mean, a lot of governments, and it's not easy to get 10, 15 heads of state in one place, and that too of important countries. Very, very interesting, and I am not building this into a narrative, but I noticed that India has recalibrated its ties with Canada, which is to the north of the US, and had a very useful, fruitful, and interesting meeting with the president of Mexico, which is south of the United States. En route to Canada, PM Modi stopped at Cyprus, which is really a financial keg in the old school financial um, flows around the Western world and also to emerging markets. A lot of companies are registered in Cyprus, and half of it is really owned by is occupied rather by Turkey. So it is couched as a geopolitical, geostrategic move against Turkey, but it is also a move against the um, new age finance like crypto and so on, because Cyprus really is a center of the old money in that sense. Anyhow, um, how did India manage a last minute invite from G7? Now, there are many reasons, and as you can see, Donald Trump left that G7 early, and there was no meeting between Trump and Modi because Modi arrived just after Trump had left. They did have a phone call, and in that phone call, Modi disabused Trump of any credit for getting the ceasefire between India and Pakistan done. So that's a different story. So the India-US story is developing into a at least a temporary divorce, if not a final one. So the two parties have filed for separation, and now they're talking about okay, who will keep what. That doesn't mean that all part of the Indo-US relationship is down the drain, but surely the strategic partnership, wherein the geopolitical interests are not aligning right now, and surely for India, Pakistan, arming, hyphenating, re-hyphenating, financing Pakistan is not okay. And I think that has been communicated to the Trump administration. I really don't think they will change their minds because they have obviously calculated India's reluctance to be in the same room as Munir. And I thought that was a deceptive move by Trump, but one which India read. And right after the meeting between the phone call between Modi and Trump, before Trump could tweet, India had its foreign secretary giving a 4-minute video briefing so that it cannot be twisted. So that was a very interesting thing. So there is uh, as I said, there is a difference between how US is treating India and how rest of the West, which includes Japan, is treating India. I just have a slide which kind of talks about uh, what is working, what is going bad. So there's an intel sharing deal with Canada. The trade talks with Canada have resumed. I have heard that a couple of big financial companies or institutions in the West have said we will dump the dollar and they're coming back to India. Apple and Foxconn expansion continues. There was a good meeting between Carney and Modi. France and Japan still seem to be backing India. Trump outreach has not deterred EU from aligning with India, or at least talking to India. Uh, Shankar has been like in Europe for a very long time as of now. However, there are some defense technology deliveries, as I mentioned. FDI clearances are lagging. There is a F-16 upgrade to Pakistan, which was approved. There was a ceasefire which they pushed. There was narrative support for Pakistan during Operation Sindoor. So there is a horizontal divide where corporates, capital, and some key allies are still backing India, while the strategic and the military arms are not. So this seems to be a divide, and then there's a geographical divide where France and a bit of lukewarm or warming up from the UK is continuing, and then there is uh, the factor of Mexico, as I mentioned. So there are a lot of different things happening. Now, why is the West not just moving lock, stock, and barrel to, say, some other uh, big country which has a large population, which has a decent military, and is located in the Indo-Pacific or Pacific, namely Indonesia? They could do that, but by all projections, Indonesia is not going to be really that. cannot project that kind of influence based on where it sits in geographical terms and its own geography, with all of those islands, that doesn't lend it the kind of depth India has by sitting right in middle of the Malacca Straits. So there are some very good arguments for why the West will not want to leave India completely, but would want to turn the screws on the geostrategic and some economic terms. Maybe Trump will announce major tariffs against India in the coming month after 9 July. I missed out one key fact, which was that uh, there was a visit by the vice foreign minister of China, and India and China decided that they will very quickly restart the flights between India and China. So this is right after this, the call from the Canadian Prime Minister came to Narendra Modi. So I don't know if they're connected, but I thought I ought to mention it. Uh, then there are 10 reasons I can think of as to why will the Americans or the West, the collective West, not want to dump India completely, but maybe play good cop, bad cop, or parts of the US will align, parts of the US will not. Some countries will trade, some countries will not trade, which I call confusion. So, what are those reasons? India is a very large market. There is no other market which will scale like this. Capital flows are still shifting east, and India is a part of it. India has been added to the emerging market bonds bond index of the bonds. So, a lot of capital movement happens through that. There is a China plus one strategy in place, though it is flagging right now. There is a massive pharma sector in India which produces generics, and India is a food surplus nation. Don't forget that. IMAC, the India Middle East corridor, was basically designed to uh, have food supplies between India and Europe and US. Some investments from one country, I forget which, came into Gujarat based on that. Then there is India has low cost manpower. Some of them are highly skilled. I think this is a theme you are well aware of. Then India sits right in the center of these major trading lanes, Malacca to Hormuz. So there is no other country that can project that kind of power across these lanes. India does play a peaceful role there, but you never know what happens in the future. India is supposed to be a democratic balancer versus a Russia-China autocratic axis, but I think that story has died its well-deserved death, um, and this is not much talked about anymore. Also, remember, India can shape prices of energy, and in fact, one of the biggest irritants the Americans had with India was because India kept buying Russian oil, and that kept the price of oil within a reasonable number. If India had not done that, the price of crude would have crossed 150, 170, maybe 200, and that would have been a complete economic destruction for the global south at least. India is autonomous, a swing power, which means it will never fully align with China and Russia, so therefore still useful. And it has some lot of soft power and diaspora, and it does a lot of diplomacy. So there are some, uh, I will say, very obvious reasons why the West would want to engage with India and keep India in play. But I think some of them are taking their bets off and some of them are jumping on. For instance, I've heard that the Japanese are very keen and they've been telling their companies that you ought to spend a lot of time in India now. You ought to be investing and really study the Indian market and go after it. There is a interesting slide I have, and this is something which I think is indicative. Like for instance, when we look at the price of gold, we can see whether a war is coming or not. And very strangely, today, I think yesterday or day before, the price of gold fell, and everyone was surprised because that means that there's a de-escalation coming. In the same way, one can sense what is going to happen in geopolitics based on where the capital flows are going. And as of now, from what I'm hearing, the capital is now heading back to India. A part of it, the part of the fund which is allocated with a certain algorithm uh, for the emerging markets. So India is going to corner a certain amount of capital. And okay, all this I have already covered. So let me know what you think. What are the other reasons why the West is pivoting away, but it's confused what to do and is confusing us as well. Uh, and do like, comment, and share this video. And I will come back to you very soon with another video with deeper insights, and hopefully get in front of the event rather than chasing it. But I enjoyed presenting this to you and hope you liked it as well. So this is goodbye from Samit on Talks on Ground.